am excited that we are having a one-on-one conversation with none other than Dr. Tierini. Now, you've seen her host the show, you have watched on her YouTube channel, Hey Sugar, and she's going to talk a lot about that. But today we just want to dive in, have a candid conversation about what does entrepreneurship look like today. We've all got our own way that we approach it. We figure out how we're going to stay in it. And sometimes we just throw our hands up and say the hell with it. But today, let's just dive in and get a glimpse of this boss lady, Dr. Tierini. Hey, Dr. Tierini.
Hey, Dr. Jackie.
Look, girl, I have been waiting for a while to have this one-on-one conversation with you. I mean, for years we've been talking about doing it, and you are doing a lot of amazing things. So, just right at the onset, just straight out of the gate, tell us, who is Dr. Tierini and how did you build your brand?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, hey, Sugars. I am Dr. Tierini, your favorite life coach, consultant, author, professional speaker, media personality. I think to answer that question, I have to go back a little bit. So, before there was a Dr. Tierney, there was a Dr. Hodges, okay? And she was the intellectual, the academic, the higher ed professional. I worked in higher ed for several years with the Department of Education, and that's what I really thought I was going to be doing for the duration of my life. And got to October of 2016. Actually got to May of 2016. That's when I earned my doctorate degree. That's when I became Dr. Hodges, and got to September of 2016. And that's when I got married. That's when I became Mrs. Hodges Murad, or Dr. Hodges Murad, and got to October of 2016. So May, graduated. September, got married. In October, I lost my good job. Okay. To say the rug was pulled from up under me is an understatement. Sugar, I was depressed. I was anxious. I had no idea what I was going to do. I lost my sense of self, my identity. I woke up one morning and literally looked at the sky and was like, I'm the doctor of nothing. Like, why did I get this doctorate degree? And it was at that moment, it was in that low spot, it was in that valley moment that Dr. Tyranny started to become, and I didn't know it at the time. I had just lost everything. I was brokenhearted. I was broke in my bank account. I had just gotten married. And so we couldn't plan anything or our next step. So I was in this holding place, this holding pattern, applying for jobs. I applied for over 300 jobs at the time, and didn't think that that would be the case because I've been working in higher ed for, at that point in time, for over 15 years, and so I just knew that another position, another opportunity would be right, at the door. But what I didn't know was that God had shut out of those doors because he had something else for me to do. He wanted to show me another aspect of me that I never even considered. It was in that space that I wrote my first book, Level Up, Living on the Levels God Intended. And I had no idea what to do with it. And so once again, I was like, okay, God, you got me out here. I ain't got no money. I got this book. I don't know what to do with it. And that's when he sent me none other than Dr. Jackie. And I'll never forget the first conversation that we ever had, on the phone. And I was just lamenting about all my woes and, oh, I can't find a job. I can't do anything. And if someone could look at you over the phone, that's what she did. She looked at me over the phone and said, girl, why are you waiting for someone to give you a job? You have years of experience. You have a doctorate degree. You are the job. You go make the job that you want. And that just hit me right between the eyes because I never considered entrepreneurship. I never considered that. Is honestly, I didn't want to be an entrepreneur because it was scary. It was uncertain. I wanted the W-2, the sure thing. And I think I actually said that. I think I actually said that to you, Dr. J. And what you said to that, I did say that because what you said to that was that W-2 ain't sure. It ain't secure. Those people could come in there and fire you today, tomorrow. So just because you have a W-2, that does not give you the security that you're looking after. And what you said was, I feel more secure in entrepreneurship because I know it's just me and God. And I know if God told me to do it, then however it may look in the moment, it's going to work out. And that one conversation, it turned my world upside down. That is when I then started to drop the super professional and yes, I am Dr. Hodges Mirror. You know what? No, I'm Dr. Tierini. That's who I am. This is my book. This is what I do. This is what I know. And I started to let go of all of the pretenses and performing and people pleasing that I was doing to try to break back into a arena that had basically God had shut it for me. And so I
Mhm.
started to do my own thing. And the more I became me, the more I allowed God to show me me, and the more I embraced me through this journey of entrepreneurship, the more things took off, the more doors began to open, the more books popped out of me, the more media appearances started to present themselves because I was then comfortable and confident in who I was and whose I was. And that began kind of the road to entrepreneurship. So when you say, who is Dr. Tierney? She is all of that and a bag of chips because I know who my Heavenly Father is and I know what He put on the inside of me. This is not cockiness. This is not arrogance. It is confidence because I'm confident in what He is telling me to do and who He has, and who He is currently still shaping me to become.
I think that that's an important aspect of it because just as people are probably watching your face, they can see that shift to that level of comfortability from being uncertain about things
Yeah.
to where you stand now. And I know that it's not easy for people, but what were some of your tips related to no longer wrestling with yourself? How did you come to terms with settling into this is the next step? And I know Deuteronomy talks about, God gives us the ability to create wealth. And for me, it's always been if it's in me, then it's up to me to allow him to pull it out of me and see where I can go. And many people don't take that next step. So, how do you stop that wrestling phase to just move in now to what is for you to be doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, a couple of things. A lot of it was internal, and then some of it was external. I'll start with the external first. I had to get me a coach. When you said what you said to me, Dr. Jackie, I was actually already working with a life coach, and she kind of primed the pump, so to speak, so that I could really receive what it is that you were saying to me. I think if I wasn't working with her, I wouldn't have been able to really latch on to that wisdom and that right now Rhema word that you were delivering to me in that moment. And so that's the external work, working with a coach to help you see what you can't see, to help you consider some things that you hadn't considered before, to help you get out of your own way. So then you can actually walk out, that path that's in front of you. But then I also had to do the internal work. And this is also where my coach and, my therapist came in. Because there were a lot of things I had to deal with. You just heard me say I was wrestling with depression. I had my own antidepressant, prescription because who I was so wrapped up in what I did, and this is why this is a cornerstone of my coaching practice because we get so mixed up in what it is that we want to do. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do next? Instead of asking the question, well, sugar, who are you? Who are you? After all the things, after all, I had just got a degree, got married. I was not the same person, but I was expecting to do the same thing without first evaluating who this new person was, and so when God gave me, like, no, you're not Dr. Hodges Murray, you are Dr. Tierney. It was like that showing me, like, no, this is still you, but this is the new you. This is the you that you hadn't even connected to. And so I had to get some of the internal junk out of the way. I had to get that stinking thinking under control. I had to get that insecurity out of the way. I had to get some of the things that I was taught, some of the things that, meant well and served me well up to a certain point. It was not supposed to go with me into that next, season. So I had to get some of that training out of the way. I had to let go of some things and some things that's within me. I had to let go of some hurt feelings. I had to stop being resentful at the fact that this is what happened and why I lost my job. And I had to start walking in some forgiveness of them, forgiveness of myself. I had to stop replaying the video of what happened, where did I go wrong, what steps did I take wrong, what this I should have had, this I should have did that, I had to start letting go so that I could grab hold to. And that's a lot of the internal work that we overlook. We think that we just need to do this and do that and do the external stuff, but we dragging all of this internal junk with us and wondering why we're not reaching our next level or can't even see the next level, or we're too busy watching their next level instead of defining our next level. So it's a lot of internal work we have to do, and then as well as the external work. And this is why, again, I'm gonna get on my soapbox early. Get a coach, get a therapist, because if I hadn't worked with my coach, if I had not worked with my life coach and my therapist, I would not have been able to be here right now talking to you. So that's the one and the two of what I see that gets in the way and what I had to do to help me to be able to move from where I was to where I wanted to be.
So let's talk about that a little bit more, because oftentimes sabotage, self sabotage plays a role in people not being able to pivot. I know a lot of people have been ripped in 2025, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. We're, just past this midpoint of this year. How do people take what they know and at least begin to work on the internal hurt, to say, I can't, I have to claim my baggage, take my ownership, and then leave some of that mess at the airport or at that other job or wherever? How do they clear their mind so that they
Yeah,
can at least hear God speak, so they
yeah,
can move into their next?
yeah, yeah. The You just said something. How do they take ownership? That right there, accountability. I think a lot of times we are too busy pointing the finger at other people. What my boss did, what my mama didn't do, what my daddy said, what my friend stabbed me in the back. I think a lot of times we're too busy looking at them, and we're not taking accountability for us. We it's easy to point the finger at them, and we're not saying, you know what, God told me. I knew that they wasn't right. I should have. Well, you know what? Okay, I didn't do anything to deserve that, but now it's my responsibility to move forward. We have to take accountability for us. It does not matter what they did was wrong. It hurt you. I'm with you, sugar. But this is why the Bible tells us that we are to forgive. Forgiveness is not for them. It's for you. So when we take accountability, even if we didn't do anything wrong, but take accountability for where we are now and where we want to go, take accountability for that forgiveness or our unwillingness to forgive, then that helps us to start opening the door to releasing some of these stinking thinking, self-sabotaging thoughts and feelings that are getting in the way of you actually progressing. Okay. That's the first thing. The second thing, because it's different for everyone. The things that torment us will be different. For some it's fear, for some it's insecurity, for some it's needing that validation, and so knowing what it is that really plagues you, being real with yourself, because right behind accountability, you got to get real with you. You got to get real with your stuff. I know how I get in my own way. I know what are the stumbling blocks that cause me to get distracted and off course. Do you know fully, truly what it is that is getting in your way? Do you know? Can you name that self saboteur? And if you can't, again, this is where a coach comes in, a therapist, because they will help you point out your patterns. Which goes to the third thing: who do you have around you? Who is in your circle? What are they saying? Are they going after their next? You know, we think that, oh, that's my friend since way back. No, Steve Harvey said all the time, everybody that come with you can't go with you. I dedicated an entire chapter in my first book to this topic of friends. And that's friends, family, foes, the whole nine. Who do you have around you? Because the people that you have around you, the people that are in your team, they are the ones that can make or break you being able to really stay focused, being able to keep your mind focused on what it is that God is telling you to do, to be able to hear from God. Literally, just as we were gearing up for this, and I was plucking with these curls, because sugar, these curls been fighting me all morning. Okay, they look cute, but they've been fighting me all morning, right? So I was just telling Dr. Jackie that I have a friend who fusses at me. She fusses at me something tough. And she's out like, Teddy, you need to be doing, because you don't even know what you da 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 da. She can see what I can't see about me. And she fusses at me out of love because that's that iron sharpening, that she sees something in me that I haven't seen yet. And she's calling that thing out. She's calling me out into the deep. Do you have people around you that are like that? That will fuss at you in love, that will hold you accountable? Or is everybody in your circle, amen, men and women, girl, you know, well, I mean, dude, you just got to do. That is the quickest way to get stuck. So if you're not taking accountability, if you don't know what your mess is, and then you got a lot of messy people around you, sugar, I can guarantee you're not going anywhere. You're gonna be right where you at. Come next year, come 2026, we're gonna find you right in that same spot. So
Mm.
that's how you really get yourself in position to be able to hear from God and to be able to keep moving forward in whatever it is that He tell you to do.
Also happen. We have a tendency to look at the negative because we want the success now. But why is it important to see the small things as wins when you're an entrepreneur?
This is so good. Um, it Let me come at the gate by saying I understand that it's hard. And it's hard because we live in a world of social media where everybody is posting their wins. Okay. So it's easy to pick up your phone and scroll and see all the amazing things that people are doing. And it can make you feel like you're not doing enough. It can make you feel like you are just failing and flunking. Okay. It can make you feel like a slacker. Okay. Um, the thing is, nobody really posts their losses. Nobody really posts the lessons. Nobody posts when they missed the mark. Nobody posts when their business, didn't secure that contract. Nobody talks about that. And so that can easily get us in this place, in this space of feeling like what you're doing is not enough. And if we're not careful, it'll make us start to feel like who we are is not enough. Okay. And that's the quickest way for you to start to give up. That's the quickest way for you to just close shop, on your entrepreneur journey. So it is pivotal that you put horse blinders on. Okay. If you don't know what horse blinders are, if you ever look at a horse, they have these little things on the side to keep them from turning their head to the left and to the right to get off course so that they can stay on their own path. You have to put those on so that you don't get deterred by what somebody else is doing, because what we'll accidentally do is start trying to run their race instead of running our own. Okay. What they are doing, whatever path that God has them on, that is their path. You have to stay on your path. And when you are on your path, there will be pitfalls. There will be things that don't, go as planned. That is a normal part of the process. Even if they're not posting it, it's happening on their path too. It's some stuff that jumped up and clutched them by the neck and had them gripping their pearls. It's some things that go bump in the night for them as well. Just because they're not talking about it doesn't mean that it's not happening. Sugar, it's happening. Okay. Um, the thing you have to do is when you are on your journey, you have to celebrate every win. You have to celebrate it. I don't care what it is, you have to celebrate it. When I started out, I had a calendar. It was a big planner book. And on in that planner, every day that something, happened for the first, I would say 3 years of my business, I literally wrote what I was celebrating for that day. I sold 5 copies of my book today. I just secured my 10th client today. I just sold my top premier package, coaching package today. I just secured my biggest consulting contract today. I mean, it didn't matter. I got out of the bed at 6 a.m. today. I did not cuss them out today. It did not matter what it was. I made sure to write it in that calendar to celebrate it. Now now let me go spiritual for a second, and why this is also important for, you don't necessarily have to be Christian. Yes, I believe in, that Jesus Christ died for our sins. And so it was important for me to write it down, because there will be moments where when that bad thing happens, I needed to go back and look at how far God had brought me. I needed to go back and literally see it with my eyes to see that he brought me from no job in the valley, no idea what to do, to selling books, to being on TV, to all these other things. And so when we are in the moment where the thing, whatever the thing is, isn't going right, we need to look back and see just how far he's brought me, just how many times I thought that bill wasn't going to get paid, but hallelujah, I secured that client and then I could pay that bill and keep the lights on in my business. I wrote it down because I needed to remember it. So that's why it's critical, because when you are in those low moments, what the devil wants to do is come up and tell you what you're not, what you can't do, what's gonna fail, what ain't gonna work. And you need to have your proof to say, devil, look, because back in March of 2030, he did this, he did that, he did that, because it is a warfare, it is a fight. Entrepreneurship, it's a fight, sugar. This is not, it is not easy. So you need to make sure you've got your tools. You need to make sure that you are battle ready. And for a lot of us, it's just holding on to those moments, those little moments, those things that we are trying to just, oh well, I ain't there yet. No, sugar, it's those building blocks that will help build the business, that will help build the influence, that will help build the media personality that ultimately you're trying to get to. But if we're overlooking it and throwing our blocks away, then it's going to be easy for us to trip and fall and not actually make it. So it's very critical. It is very critical that you celebrate every little moment along the way, because it helps you to keep going.
When you think about celebrating, do you go overboard? And I mean this in the sense that people have a tendency in entrepreneurship to run ahead of themselves, like, oh, I got this, so now let me try this thing, without giving what was working an opportunity to really just settle, to make sure that that is the right step. So that way you can see what the next step is. How do people take those building blocks, or how have
Yeah.
you taken those building blocks to allow you to say, I know this is my next sure footed step,
Yeah.
without getting into a misstep?
Yeah. Yeah. This is good. These are some good questions, Dr. J. Um, so here again, it's different for every person, it's different for every entrepreneur, it's different for every industry. So I guess the first thing I would say is, if you are looking for a blueprint for a 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the people that's on social media that say, oh, I can tell you exactly how, no, they can give you an outline, a structure that you then can modify in accordance with what your path is, according to what your business is, according with what your purpose is, according with what God done told you to do. Okay, because there is no exact blueprint that can tell you what to do. Now, having said that, this is where, for me, sugar, I pray. That talking about what is the secret sauce, prayer, listening to God and him telling me when to move, when not to move, because there may be some times when it may be a great opportunity, it may be the most money you have ever seen, and God will say no, and you have to, okay, am I going to listen and be obedient, or am I going to run out there? Because all money ain't good money, sugar. As an entrepreneur, you need to understand that all money ain't good money. You may get over there and it may be hell in a handbasket when you get over there, or it may take you away from the purpose or the direction, or you might get caught up in some stuff. We've recently had a lot of trials happening and a lot of things where people just sincerely wanted to follow their passion and their craft, and they ended up in some situations and some circumstances because it was a great opportunity. And so I can't tell you that, oh, because it's a great, no, sometimes God may say, no, that's not it, or those aren't the people, or that's not the company. On the other end, it may be that he's telling you now is the time to move, and it may look like, God, you telling me what? I don't know if you've been watching the show for any amount of time, you probably heard me say this, that this room that I'm sitting in right now, it was, all of this was purchased at the height of the pandemic. The pandemic happened. I think we got the alarm like around March 2020. And in April 2020, God said, now it's time for you to go and buy. Buy what, Lord? Don't you see the big businesses are shutting down? What do you mean? Go buy what? With what? When? Huh? What do you mean? And that was actually the best time to buy because interest rates were nothing. I mean, everything now has just doubled and tripled in value for those of us who bought in 2020. So prayer is the secret sauce because God can tell you, he can see out into the future. So he can tell you when to move, when not to move, when to stay, when to go. Okay. The other thing that you want to be mindful of here is that even again, if you're not a believer, give yourself that beat. Give yourself a beat before you do anything. Don't rush into anything. I don't care what it is. And I have found that in business, if someone is ever pressuring you, you got to do it right now, today. Usually that ain't it. That ain't it. If you can't take a beat to think about it, if you can't take a beat to talk to your attorney, if you can't take a beat to do a little more research into it, if you're asking for the data on whatever that thing is and they can't give it to you, sugar, that's a red flag. Okay. So you always want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence on whatever it is, the industry, the company, the revenue of whatever. To talk to your legal team. If you don't have a legal team, you need to get a legal team. Okay. Somebody that can read the legalese for you and make sure you ain't getting yourself caught up in nothing. So you always want to give yourself a beat. Give yourself whatever time, a day, a week, a month, whatever it is, depending on whatever you're negotiating or whatever you're considering, that would dictate the amount of time that you need to take. But give yourself a beat so that way you will know in your know that this is the direction to go. Okay. And we can't always be 1000% sure because things are going to happen. The economy is going to do what it's going to do. But if you can try to mitigate as much of the risk as you can in the beginning and take calculated risk and make calculated decisions, that will help you go a long way in your entrepreneur journey.
So I want to ask Dr. Tierney this question because I want to know, Dr. Tierney, have you ever thought about giving up on this entrepreneurial journey?
Yes, a whole bunch of times. How much
I know.
truth, sugar? Because how much truth we want to give them?
So let's talk about this for a moment because was there ever a time when you did or have considered giving up, but you know that you've got skill sets that keep you moving forward? So let's talk to our audience about before you throw in a towel, let's determine what else there is to do because I think people give up too soon.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Buckle up, sugar. So, have I ever thought about giving up? Absolutely. At one point, it was like every day. I gave up every day. I mean, I'm not doing this. I'm folding my arms. I'm not sending no emails. I'm not doing because I didn't want to do this no way. God, you just got me out here and you done pushed me out here because I wanted to work over here. And I did that for several years. I was a double-minded entrepreneur. Okay. One day I was writing down my successes and oh, I got it. The next day I was eating popcorn in front of the TV because I ain't doing it. I'm giving up. It was pretty ugly for about definitely for the first year. Definitely. That first year was cat raggedy. But by the time I got maybe into the second year, my days of wanting to give up started to decline, and to be completely honest, sugar, I wasn't all the way locked in until maybe year 4. Okay, I've been in business what 6 years now, like totally like LLC established and all of that. It's been 6 years, going on 7 years, and it was about year 4 before I totally got locked in and totally, now what giving up looked like to me, like I said, sitting in front of the TV, eating popcorn. Lord, if you want this to happen, then you're going to have to do it. You don't need me no way. You can make whatever you want to happen. I had attitude like that. Sugar, can you tell? But the other way I gave up is that I started applying for jobs. I would apply for jobs when I would see something on LinkedIn. I was like, ooh, let me apply for that. And so I would just, apply for the job and clearly all doors were still shut. God was like, I done told you, little girl, you need to cut it out. Um, and so I was giving up. But the reason why I was giving up is because I still was not convinced that I could do this. I still was not really convinced that this was the path for me, only because I was so uncomfortable. It was taking me through some changes that I did not like. I can now look back and see that those changes and the stretch and the discomfort, it wasn't pain, it wasn't, anything wrong or broken or anything like that. It was just the process that I was going through so that I could see me and truly all that I had more clearly. It's one thing when you've worked in one arena, like I said, the academic, the intellectual. I knew her. I knew Dr. Hodges. I knew her very, very well. What I didn't know was that Dr. Tierney is creative. I did not know that she had as much charisma and was as funny as she was. I did not know that. And so it took me going through that give up, try again, give up, try again, give up, try again before I fully locked in and decided, like, nah, I really can do this because I see now all that is on the inside of me. And so I think the biggest piece in the give up process is really you really getting real about why is it that you want to give up? Is it because the money is looking funny? Is it because you're still seeking the validation of others? Is it because your faith is really in your money? It's in your what you know and not in God? Let me raise my hand because that was me as well. Um, and so we want to go with the sure thing. We want to go with the thing that we know because we're really not walking by faith. We're walking by what we feel, and so we have to get real about why are we quitting, and once we get real about why we're quitting and then address that thing, that will help us to keep going. Um, the other thing is, again, going back to who do you have around you? Who is speaking life to you? Who is seeing it even when you can't see it? Who is helping to push you forward, helping you, giving you the encouragement that you need for you to push forward? This is where family and friends can be sometimes our greatest asset and sometimes our greatest weakness, because sometimes we are too dependent on our family to support us, to buy our product, to and to give us that validation for us to keep going. And then if we don't get it, if we don't get their validation, if our family isn't clapping, then we, oh, well, they no, I must not be good because my own mama did, my cousin didn't. And so we expect them to support because we're looking for their validation. And in that case, it can be our greatest weakness, because here's the thing: God didn't give them that idea. He didn't give them that vision. He gave it to you. So sometimes our family just don't get it. You know, my mom comes from that era of you get a good job, you stay there and you don't leave until you get another good job and you get the gold watch. And, you know, so me doing this, she did not get it. So she trying to explain to her what I didn't even fully understand myself, that God hadn't really explained to me, she didn't get it. So she couldn't really just, she was like, okay, you sure? Mm. She really couldn't give me that oomph that I needed. So I couldn't get that from her. Now, if I relied on that, if that was the thing that was keeping me going, then I was going to quit every time. But in the same token, if you have your friends and your family that do get it, that are, championing you, then yes, lean into that. But the thing is, we have to find, again, our tribe who is helping you to keep, going, because you're going to want to quit. You're going to want to stop, and so we have to make sure that we are digging down deep. One other thing I'll say, again, which is why a coach or a therapist is so important: entrepreneurship will pull out of you emotions, feelings, triggers, and traumas that you did not know were there, fears that you did not know were there, because it is such an emotional process. And so you have to face the fear, you have to face that emotion, you have to face whatever that trauma and that trigger is if you want to keep going. So a lot of times we want to quit because of whatever that thing is that we hadn't dealt with, that when we were in our 9 to 5 or we were on the safe road, it didn't pull that thing out. It didn't pull out that insecurity. It didn't pull out that need for validation. But then you got over here in entrepreneurship, and the fact that you worked for 3 hours on that reel and it only got 5 views and one like, and it just sent you into a spiral. You have to deal with whatever that thing is that's on the inside, those emotions, those traumas, and those triggers that you didn't know were there. Because if you don't, you're going to want to quit and give up every single time.
Hmm. That's a good segue to this next question that I have for you, because some people are going to be forced onto entrepreneurship if they decide that that's what they want to do this last, part of the year or into, 2026. But with that in mind, so many people have been followers because they've worked on the job. They were, right there in their cubicle doing whatever they were told. So where is the line between pulling out the leader in the follower? Because
Mhm.
that too, entrepreneurship will make you rise to every occasion because you
Yeah.
don't have a supervisor, a boss, a CEO to run to. So, how do we help people see that it is in them? If
Yeah.
it's in their heart to do it, then it will also be sustained. But they have to desire to also pull that leadership card.
Yeah. 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 And the way that I say it, it's you have a W-2 brain or a CEO brain. And I had a friend that she started her business maybe a year or two right after me. She was working full time and just kind of working on her business on the side. And then she decided to quit her job and, go full time entrepreneurship. And she was talking to me one day. And that's what she was saying about the difficulty of just kind of knowing what to do. Like there's so much to do and knowing what to do. And that's what I told her. I said, you have to make the switch from the W-2 brain to the CEO brain. The W-2 brain waits for, the supervisor to set whatever the course is for that day. You wait for the job description. You wait for whatever the directive or whatever the goal is for that month or that quarter or whatever it is. Whereas with the CEO, you got to set it. You have to set what the goal is. You have to set what the vision is, whatever the mission, vision, and values of your company is. And I don't care if it's just a company of one. You have to set that. You have to determine what direction that business is going to go. You have to set the 5-year vision, the 2-year vision, the 1-year vision. And sometimes that can be hard when we are used to being passive and being told what to do. Whereas as an entrepreneur and you're the CEO, you're the CEO, the COO, the CFO, you're all the COOs, And so you have to set that. And so that can be kind of, difficult to make that switch. And so like you said, Dr. J, you have to pull that leadership card. And so for some of us, we may need to do some leadership training. We may need to back up and punt and go and take some leadership, courses. Now, the thing that's interesting, and I didn't know that God was preparing me along the way, is that I took several courses in leadership. I actually did a leadership program with the Chamber of Commerce in the city that I was living at the time. And in my doctorate program, we had courses on leadership style, and all of that. I'm thinking, yeah, because I'm going to be the president of XY University one day. No, sugar. God was like, no, you're going to be the CEO of your own company one day. And I didn't realize that all of that leadership training that I had was going to come into play here. And so if you're not sure what your leadership style is, or if you're not really comfortable in leadership, then you might want to take some leadership courses. This is also, and we may probably have to pick up more on this later, but this is also where you have to really ask yourself, is entrepreneurship for me? Is this something that I really got the gusto to do it? Maybe I am gifted, purposed to be the supporter, not necessarily the leader. And that's okay, and that's okay too. But if entrepreneurship is something that that this is what you're supposed to do, then you're going to have to pull that leadership piece out because nothing moves until you do.
So, Dr. Tierney, when we talk about putting in the work and what it takes and what's required for everybody, work ethic is important. And if you don't get it on your job, then you're going to be forced to get it and fail a lot, as an entrepreneur. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the ways in which you've discovered in your life lessons and the things that you've gleaned in your 7 year journey as an entrepreneur, the work, the lane that you have to be in, and the mindset that you have to have in order to keep pushing? Just like you show up for another boss every day, why won't people show up for themselves?
Yeah.
Isn't it
Yeah.
hard?
It 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 is something that is, it can be very difficult for a lot of people, right? Simply because it comes down to one word: discipline. This was not something that was very hard for me because I'm very and have been very disciplined. Even when I was working on my doctoral degree, when I was in the research, and dissertating phase of it, I gave myself self-imposed deadlines, not because my dissertation chair gave them to me, but because I knew I needed to have chapter 1, 2, and 3 done so that I could go ahead to my proposal defense. So I would set these self-imposed deadlines. I have to have this done by March the 1st. And so my dissertation chair was like, where did you get that deadline from? It's a deadline I gave to myself because I'm not about to sit here and be ABD all but dissertation. We have a goal that we have to, achieve. And as an entrepreneur, that is how you have to do yourself. And a lot of people find that very difficult, to put self restraint, to put boundaries. Remember, I always say boundaries are about you, not about the other person. Your boundaries. What are your boundaries on yourself that you put so that you can reach your goal? And when we don't do that, it's going to be nearly impossible to really walk out this entrepreneurship journey. And this is why I say some people, sugar, entrepreneurship may not be for you. You may need that, accountability in that way for you to have to kind of report in, someone to check in. And because when it's just you, there is no one checking in. You're not clocking in. There's no one watching what you do. There's no one watching if you are completing the task. It's just you. So if you are constantly making excuses for you, then you not gonna do that well as an entrepreneur. Like you really, I work harder for myself. I work harder for myself than I ever did in any one of my jobs. Any one of them, I work harder for myself now. And it's not because someone is telling me what to do. It's because I know what it is that's on the inside of me. I know what God has showed me. I know the plans and the goals and the vision that he gave me, and I also know that that's just a fraction of it. He's only telling me a little bit, and he's waiting to see if I'm gonna bust a move, to see if he gonna bust a bigger move, to then me a bust another move, so that then he can bust another move. But if I'm just sitting here with my arms folded because I'm tired, I don't want to show up, or I might help my clients, or I might not. If I'm not honing my craft off camera, then I won't be prepared when the camera come on, when the clients come. If I'm not being responsive in my emails and the phone calls and doing what needs to be done, then you think the client's gonna keep calling? You think the emails gonna keep showing up? Like there is a certain level of oomph that you have to have about yourself, about your gifts, about your talents. Don't treat yourself as just common. Don't treat your gifts as just common. You have to care about that thing before anybody else will care about it. And so I think we mess up because we're waiting to see if somebody else care about it, to see then if we gonna care about it. No, I care about this when nobody's watching, when there are no clients, when I'm in this office by myself. I'm in here working on my craft. I'm in here sharpening my tools. I'm working on content. I am working on camera presence. I'm working on some editing skills. I'm writing out job descriptions when nobody is watching, because I know what it is that I want to see happen here in accordance with what God told me. Okay. And so that's the level of tenacity. That's the level of discipline. That's the level of motivation that you have to bring to this. And if you don't have that, or if you find that doing that is just making you hate it, if you dread, not to say that we're going to love all aspects of entrepreneurship, but if you are, it's like pulling teeth and I just really don't want to, and why is another client calling, then sugar, maybe this ain't for you. And that's okay. That is totally Okay, some of us have been given different gifts and talents and skills. Some of us have been given the talent of support, the talent of administration. Like I need an administrator. I had someone running my social media and my marketing, and there's nothing wrong with that because we all need each other. So just because I'm the entrepreneur doesn't mean that I don't need people. It doesn't mean that I don't need, help. So knowing where your gifts are, knowing what it is that you are uniquely gifted to do goes a long way also in helping you to be able to stay motivated in whatever it is that you're doing.
Mm, I can concur with that because I know a lot of young people, and whether you're young, middle, or older, people think we're lazy when we take days off. And I think that people don't really understand that the whole point of working for yourself is so that you have time to balance your life. For
Mhm.
me, it's I set a goal, I set a time, I set a pace, I set one daily deliverable, and then I act on it. So
Mhm.
that way, as I'm working through those four things, it allows me to have time to breathe, to
Mhm.
research, to actually take a lunch that most people didn't get when they were working, for someone else, to take a 3 day or 4 day weekend. People oftentimes don't understand the freedom and flexibility that comes from entrepreneurship, while at the same time, you can actually double your own income if you're really just trying to support yourself or one or two other people. Why do people make it hard, Dr. Tierney?
I think because we don't know. We don't know. Like I made it hard when I first started.
Hmm.
I was, again, I didn't want to do this. So I was making it hard with my mindset, first of all. But then I didn't know how, what, why. And so I was just like, oh, I got to do everything. And I was just grinding and spinning my wheels and, doing all the things. And then God was like, if I delivered you from the hamster wheel, why are you creating another one? And I didn't realize at that moment, like, oh yeah, I get to set the pace. I get to, and so I think we fall into two categories. Either we are going into entrepreneurship because we're rebellious and we don't want to listen to nobody and we just want to do our own thing and we want to, or we're going into it and we are just, I mean, we are working and working and work. Just like, what's the story of that young lady that was a baker or a cook or something? And she said, guys, I'm
Oh,
tired.
you need to go rest.
I need to go rest. And she ended up, baby, that
Gone to
show
glory.
on the glory, gone to glory, And so I think we fall into those two camps. Either we're doing all the things all the time and we're not pacing ourselves, or we over here just, lay playing and parlaying, thinking that things are just going to manifest on their own if you just think hard enough about them. And so I think you have to find that middle, and everybody's middle, looks different. What does that middle look like for you? Making sure that you take the breaks, but also making sure that you are staying on top of what you need to stay on top of. The freedom and flexibility, it is great, it is wonderful, but it does come at a cost. Making sure that you have done the work that you need to do and set things up so that you can take that break. Making sure that you are getting the right people around you and on your team so that you can trust that the work that they're doing, that it's being done, and you don't have to micromanage everything that they're doing, or they got to run everything, through you. Then why have a team, sugar? And so making sure that whatever your systems are in place, investing in your systems, investing in your business. I have systems set up so that, and my system works like it's three people, and so making sure that you have those things, whatever it is, in place. So then you can strategically, all right, I'm going to take a break from here to here. I'm going to do this and this, or I'm going to take my computer and all of my things and I'm going to go home and, visit my family, and spend a week, back home with my mom and my grandparents, and I'll work, from there. But
Hmm.
making sure that you're keeping your eye on what it is that you're responsible for, while also making sure that you take a break so that we don't end up grinding our gears and, like we said, be gone to glory before our time.
Absolutely. Quickly share with me about guilt, because oftentimes when entrepreneurs take a break, they feel guilty because they've been so used to being busy, busy, busy that they just don't know how to relax.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the guilt of having free time?
I think it comes from disconnecting from this cultural phenomenon, booked and busy, rise and grind. I think we have to disconnect from that, because if our Lord rest on the Sabbath day, okay, if you go read the Bible, Jesus was he stayed gone. He stayed telling them 12, all right, I see y'all in a little bit. I'm gonna go on over here and rest a little while. If our Lord and Savior had to rest, you think you don't have to? You think you can just keep going and going and going, or that the things that you're going to do without resting is going to produce that much more fruit? Honestly, I am better after I've taken a break. Once you've taken a break, you've had time to rest, refresh, recharge. It allows your creative juices to flow. It gives you a different perspective on some things. It allows you to live, and so then you have different experiences. And I don't care if you are a creative, a musician, a author, or if you have a baking business, or a construction company. We all need that fresh idea, that fresh innovation, that fresh wave, and we won't get it if we're constantly going and going and going. So when we take a break, it gives us that time to get that fresh wind, that fresh wave, that second wind, so that we can be even more effective in our business. And so when we prescribe to these notions of that we have to keep going, that if you're sleeping, then you not work, then yes, we're going to feel guilty, because in that guilt we're comparing ourselves to what somebody else is doing, or what we think they're doing, or how we think that they're working. And they may be working that way, but again, we just said the young lady that was grinding, 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 it took a toll on her body. So you never want to compare yourself or feel guilty for not doing what you see somebody else is doing, because again, you don't know their path. You really don't even know if it's working for them. You don't know if they're grinding that way because they're insecure. So you may be following the pattern and the practices of somebody that is totally insecure, that is a people pleaser. And when I put it that way, it make you go, huh, wait a minute. But that's what we don't want to do. But we don't know why they're working that way. So you want to be very careful getting into this guilt that comes from you feeling like you're not measuring up to what you see somebody else is doing, because you don't know what that other person is carrying, and you also don't know what they've been called to do, and you also don't know what they've been graced to do. You said, Dr. J, we make this look easy. No, I don't try to make it look easy. I don't. I tell on myself all the time. If you go through my social media, you'll hear me saying, hey, here's how I messed up. Here's how it's hard. This is where I missed the mark. However, I have been graced to do this. God called me to this big yellow chair. I pay a high price to sit in this big yellow chair. But because I have been graced to do it, because I've been called to do it, because I've been purposed to do it, it just looks easy. It looks easy when I show up on this camera. It looks easy, not because I'm saying it's easy or I'm making it look easy, but what you're seeing is God's grace on me as I do it. What you're seeing is that purpose on me as I do it. So that ease, it ain't ease, it's purpose, it's grace. And so if you are doing something and you don't feel that ease, you don't feel that great, then you might want to go back and reevaluate. Not necessarily what you're doing, but maybe how you're doing it. Okay. You may be following the practices again of somebody that is, that the way they doing it ain't necessarily how you need to be doing it. Okay, sugar. So just really remembering that will go a long, long way. Help you go a long, long way in your entrepreneurship. Sugar, if you are thinking about entrepreneurship, if you are ready to leave your 9 to 5 and stick a toe in the entrepreneurship pool, don't be afraid. Don't be scared. Even if no one around you or in your family has done it before. Sugar, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that have done it, that are doing it, and have found total success and happiness with it. But I want you to know, before you jump out here, know that it is some work that goes into it. And not necessarily the work in the business itself, but some inner work. Sugar, you have to make sure that your reasons for doing it are pure, that what it is that you want to do, that it's what you want to do and not what you're seeing somebody else, do. And you have to be ready to serve. Okay. Entrepreneurship at its core, it's service. Are you serving others? How are you, serving others, even while you're in your 9 to 5, and so Sugar, those are the things that you really want to make sure that you're considering when you are getting ready to go into entrepreneurship. Don't let the fear start talking. Don't let your insecurity start talking. If it starts to talk, then you come and talk to me. Okay, come get a free session with me and we'll get all of that together, because we don't want that to stop you from doing what ultimately is in your heart that is on you to do. Okay, Sugar? It's been wonderful talking to you, Sugar.